At this time, it gives me great pleasure to call this ceremony to order. This is the 5th time we've done this, and we're commemorating the Battle of Grape Island. It's the second battle in the American Revolution. So at this time, I would ask you all to stand if you are able, and remain standing while Veteran of the Year Jack Grayburn recites the Pledge of Allegiance. Veterans, parade the colors.
Would all gentlemen please remove your hats? Everyone place your right hand over your heart and recite with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
It is now my distinct honor and privilege to call the chaplain of the day to give the invocation, Reverend Stephanie Kelch of the 2nd Parish in Hingham. The Reverend is a direct descendant of the parish pastor at this time period. Reverend.
Thank you. My congregation spent this morning replacing flags on veterans' graves at the High Street Cemetery. So I am much in the spirit and the appreciation of all those who have sacrificed, have done for this nation. In the name of what you hold eternal, what you hold sacred, let us pause. Let us express gratitude to our reenactors and all who contribute to making a moment in Hingham's history come alive today. While this town has certainly felt war's impact over the years, we have largely escaped its violence echoing in our streets and our homes. Today, we are reminded of a time when fighting happened here, when the hunt for provisions prompted area residents to challenge the British in the Battle of Grape Island. As the muskets roar and the combatants shout this afternoon, may we remember that no matter how technological it might become, the highest cost of war is ultimately personal and immediate. We do not glorify war today. Rather, we honor the long arc of history and what it keeps trying to teach us about resolving our differences. We honor all who have stood up, all who have served, all who have endured in their commitment to liberty and justice for all. May we hear what history tries to tell us. Amen.
Thank you very much for those thoughtful words, Reverend. At this time, I'd like to recognize the Chairman of the Select Board for the Town of Hingham, William Ramsey.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here today and to have this event again and to have it outside. It's a beautiful day out, and it's so great to celebrate with everybody. In May of 1775, a group of Hingham residents answered a call to arms and displayed a sense of courage and fortitude that came to represent the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War and still represents our armed forces today. In putting this event together, I wish to thank a couple people. I want to thank Andrea Young, Deirdre Anderson, Keith Sherman, Paul Lasordo, Paul Healy, the Hingham Militia, and all of our reenactors, the Hingham American Legion Post and VFW Post, and so many others for having this a wonderful event. And I hope all of those here today enjoy this journey back into history. And more importantly, I hope that in gaining a better appreciation for our past, that all of us can be more united in the present. I want to recognize a couple of distinguished guests that are here today. I have with me today my colleague on the Select Board, Joe Fisher, Assistant Town Administrator, Michelle Monsegur. I believe we might have here with us Police Chief David Jones, Town Clerk Carol Falvey, and I believe Senator O'Connor and Representative Machino are here or will be making their way here as well. I also want to recognize from the militia Pete Hall, who is one of the 1975 Hingham Militia members, one of the founding members of our militia, and he's up on the stage with me here today. Obviously, he has a fan club here with him as well, which is great. I'm just going to read a proclamation that was passed by the Select Board honoring this day. Whereas the trained band or Hingham Militia, a hardy, disciplined, trained band of citizen soldiers, comprised of the able-bodied citizens of the town, first organized when the original settlers appeared on the shores of Bear Cove in 1633, have protected generations of Hingham citizens for over a century. And whereas in 1775, as British naval forces began to increase in number and provision themselves from farms on the harbor islands, the patriotic Hingham Militia readied itself for a possible invasion of the town from the sea. And whereas on the morning of Sunday, May 21st, 1775, alarms were sounded when 4 boats carrying a small British force were seen on Grape Island, loading hay and other provisions from the farm of loyalist Elijah Levitt. And whereas the Hingham Militia responded to Weymouth Neck and observed British troops loading hay onto their boats, the militia and the British exchanged fire until the flood tide allowed the Patriots to launch their own boats to Grape Island. And whereas, when the Patriots reached the island, the British soldiers fleeing in their boats from the other side of the island fired on the militia, which returned the fire. And whereas the Patriots removed the livestock from the island and burned the barn containing the remaining tons of hay, thereby eliminating an important source of provisions for the British. And whereas the battle between the Hingham Militia and the British at Grape Island was the start of the Provision War in the Harbor Islands and a turning point in the American Revolutionary War. Now, therefore, the town of Hingham, as represented by its Select Board, does hereby proclaim Sunday, May 21st, 2022, and the years thereafter, the Sunday closest to May 21st, the Battle of Grape Island Day. Given under our hand and seal of Hingham, this Sunday, May 21st, 2022, signed by Joseph M. Fisher, William Ramsey, and Elizabeth Klein. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, welcome. I am going to describe the battle in little greater detail, but in recognition of those of you sitting in the full sun, I'm going to try to move it right along, at which point the militia and His Majesty's forces will engage to give you a sense of what it was like at that time. It's been 1 month since Lexington and Concord, and the British are bottled up in Boston, cut off, surrounded on all three sides by a militia from Massachusetts and other colonies. The ocean is the British lifeline. Its powerful navy controls the seas, keeping residents of Boston Harbor's coastal communities with a wary eye for sails on the horizon, coming out of Boston to plunder their towns. The garrison in Boston was not starving. They were supplied by the Navy with barrels of salt pork and beef, but the Army's horses needed more hay than could be grown within the confines of the town, and fresh meat would be welcome. General Gage had procured hay and livestock from Hingham, from a resident named Elijah Levitt, a loyalist, a prosperous farmer, and the owner of Grape Island. 50 acres in size, it was located in the mouth of the Back River near Hewitt's Cove. It's still there today, and was being used by Levitt to grow hay and to graze his livestock. Now with fodder for his horses scarce, Gage remembered the Loyalist Island, and that he could get at it from the sea he controlled. So on Sunday morning, May 21st, 1775, General Gage dispatched 3 sloops, an armed schooner, and 30 men under the command of Lieutenant Thomas Innes to procure the hay and livestock from Elijah Levitt's island. When the small fleet dropped anchor in the Fore River Channel above Grape Island, in the shadow of Weymouth's Great Hill, the locals were not thinking about hay and livestock, they were thinking about an invasion. While the 30 British got busy harvesting hay, women and children fled inland. A messenger was dispatched to Continental Army headquarters in Roxbury, and the alarm went out to local militias. Alarm guns spread the word. A succession of 2 quick shots would establish a chain of sound to the next group. A cannon would fire on the town common. Church bells would ring, and the drummer would sound the roll. This prearranged system was simple and efficient, as militias responded and lined the shores from Germantown, Braintree, Weymouth, and Hingham. Over 2,000 militia men responded. The alarm flew like lightning, Abigail Adams wrote to her husband John in Philadelphia. John's 2 brothers were among the responding militia. An advance guard of Continentals arrived, and although their orders were to observe and prevent a possible British landing, they and the militia began to fire at the ships and the British on the island. But their shots fell short. The British and the colonials were separated by a low tide and grounded barges. As the tide comes in, the British continue to harvest and load the sloops with hay. The tide comes in, the barges go out, landing on one end of the island, while 30 or so British begin to run out of time on the other end of the island. With their feet dry on Grape Island, the militia pursue, and they drive off the British troops and deprive General Gage of Elijah Levitt's hay and cattle. Outnumbered and out of time, the British form a line of defense whose fire allows them to board their boats and rejoin their ships. The British obtain only 2 to 3 tons of hay, leaving several tons on the beach and about 80 tons still growing on the island. Sustaining 3 wounded, the British sailed back to Boston along the Braintree shore, that is now Quincy, exchanging fire with militia gathered on the beach. The troops, now in sole possession of Grape Island, burn the hay on the beach, the hay still growing in the field, and for good measure, Elijah Levitt's barn. Then they take off the livestock to ensure that no return visits occur by the English. Citizens of Hingham, guests of the town, prepare yourself to be transported back in time, back to that fateful day over 245 years ago. And now we have the English First Foot Guards. Note the bayonets. The militia is forming. And so it comes. Determined. Risking their fortunes and perhaps their lives.
Make ready! Make ready! Take aim! Fire! Report your fire line! To the front, march!
The British hear the shots. They load in reply.
Make ready! Present! Fire! Prime and load! Take aim! Fire!
Clearly the militia is determined. The English sense trouble. And onward they come.
How many more rounds, General? Take aim! Fire! March!
The engagement is heated. The militia show no signs of retreat.
About face! Back to the boats! To the boats! To the boats!
The English are bested. They know it's time to leave. Huzzah! Huzzah!
Halt! Halt! Seize the hay! Ah! Burn the hay! Burn the barn! Take the livestock!
And so now the Hingham Militia are setting the torch to the barn of Elijah Levitt out on Grape Island, seizing his produce, burning his hay.
Huzzah! Hip hip! Huzzah! Hip hip! Huzzah!
With the militia safe back on the beach, with any potential invasion thwarted, the Hingham Militia contemplates the traitor in their midst. And they are determined to pay Elijah and his wife Ruth a call at their North Street home. They look tired under the hot sun, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a vicious fight.
Where is it? Get over here, brother.
I think you've done this.
Get over here. All right. Lots of harumps. Where is it? Lots to answer for.
String him by his tails!
Hang him!
Angry voices calling out. Retribution.
Burn the house down. Bring him out. Bring him down. Out.
Bring him out!
The cry of vengeance,
You Tory.
strong in the air.
Come on.
Where is that rascal?
Come on. Go get him. Where is he? Boil the tar. Tar and feather him. Produce the traitor. Madam, produce the traitor, the Tory Elijah Levitt.
Gentlemen, what is this disturbance?
Where is he? Madam, produce your husband now, please.
Gentlemen, we've only just returned from church. Allow me to see if Mr. Levitt is available to receive you.
Madam, if he is not here, we will enter this dwelling and receive him out his front door.
Let me apprise,
Produce the Tory Elijah Levitt.
let me apprise Mr. Levitt of your request, for I can see that you are angry and full of contempt for some reason.
Bring him out. Produce your husband now, please.
Allow me to serve you with new baked cakes and sweets just brought in from the parish while Mr. Levitt prepares himself for his meeting before you.
The hospitality of Hingham from an early age.
Who's around? Hey.
Wait till the rum comes out, folks. Then it gets good.
Well, Captain, what do I owe the honor of this visit?
Mr. Levitt, you have arranged to provide provisions to His Majesty's Royal Forces in Boston from your island.
Tar and feather 'em!
Burn 'em.
This is in direct defiance of publicly approved measures of no commerce between Tory and Patriot interests. The penalty, the agreed upon penalty for such an infraction is the tarring and feathering of Mr. Levitt's body.
Tar 'em up!
A most unpleasant experience.
Sir, we are holding you in contempt for your actions, for what you have done that has recently resulted in a confrontation between local militias and His Majesty's forces, resulting, by the way, in the burning of your hay, your barn, and the seizure of your livestock. What say ye, Mr. Levitt, to these charges?
I was certainly a poorer man now than I was yesterday.
Yes, you are.
Fellow townsmen, my forebears are buried here, as are yours. We have been fellow townsmen our whole lives. I have always been a good citizen through tithe and tax. I've supported the church, the school, the town.
Mr. Levitt appeals to the good nature of the crowd gathered before him.
I believe that the loss of my barn and hay is a sufficient punishment. But I see you have faced danger in this weather, that you are hot, probably thirsty. I can offer you a keg of the finest Jamaican rum to ease your anger. I can promise to bend my ways.
And so the golden elixir is broken out. Huzzah! Huzzah! Huzzah!
Pass it around, brothers. Pass it around.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, after receiving sweets from Mrs. Levitt and several rounds of rum, the mood of the militia lightened considerably. From hostility to merriment during this discourse, after considerable eventual pleasant interactions, the militia retired. Mission accomplished.
Leave town.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Battle of Grape Island. Now, before I say adieu, we have a special treat this year. We are going to hear from Rich Jensen and our own Kevin Reed Brown. If they'd be so kind to join me at the podium here and commemorate the battle in song. Thank you very much.
We're happy to give you the inaugural performance of the Ballad of the Battle of Grape Island. Lexington and Concord were the places it began. The British fled to Boston where they planned to make a stand. They had a lot of horses and the horses needed hay, so it became our business then to take it all away. We drank some rum and bragged about our fighting. We weren't so mad as we were an hour ago. We ate some cheese and the mood began to lighten. We figured Mr. Levitt could be spared the fatal blow. And then we spied the British boats upon the sanded Grape. They planned to buy old Levitt's hay and then make their escape. The tide was low, the boats aground, the musket range too great. The only thing that were us to do was stand and watch and wait. So later, with our boats afloat, we chased away the Brits. But how to set things right with them was giving us the fits. Now, burning Levitt's barn was just the thing to all arouse. But we were gentlemen, and so we first removed the cows. Rum and bragged about our fighting. We weren't so mad as we were an hour ago. We ate some cheese and the mood began to lighten. We figured Mr. Levitt could be spared the fatal blow. And now let's get old Levitt. When Patriot exclaimed, we knew he'd soon be tarred and feathered, beaten and or maimed. When Levitt heard that we were coming for him and his wife, he feared we'd take his assets then and maybe take his life. But Levitt, he was crafty. He knew just how to please. He rolled out 2 rum barrels and a big old wheel of cheese. We ran up to his house to find his front door open wide. A pretty Mrs. Levitt there invited us inside. We drank some rum and bragged about our fighting. We weren't so mad as we were an hour ago. We ate some cheese and the mood began to lighten. We figured Mr. Levitt could be spared the fatal blow. A big repast was set for us, and we had lots to drink. That we could be ungrateful then was more than we could think. And so this ends our story, and what we remember most. Although he was a Tory, we just couldn't hang our host. The moral of this tale is when proceeding on life's path, kind words and kinder actions often turneth away wrath. So mid the shouts and tumult, let our anger pass, dispense the mellow spirits round and drink another glass. We drank some rum and bragged about our fighting. We weren't so mad as we were an hour ago. We ate some cheese and the mood began to lighten. We figured Mr. Levitt could be spared the fatal blow. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Hingham Militia. I'd like to thank the King's Own, Foot Guards. But mostly I'd like to thank all of you for coming out. Because when we remember history and what happened here, it stays alive. And we appreciate the importance of what our citizens of past were willing to do to put it all on the line so that we could live free here today. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'll invite Reverend Shute to come up and give the benediction.
Thank you. He calls me Reverend Shute. That is my maiden name. And my many great-grandfather served with Benjamin Lincoln in the Revolutionary War. We have no family records that he was in this rum party, but I sure hope he was. Take what we have witnessed from long ago into your world today, and may that bring the energy to listen, the wisdom to understand, and the courage to stand up in all your decisions and actions. May you see with clarity, and may you serve with compassion and conviction. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the Battle of Grape Island. I will invite you to join us at the table over here for some cake generously donated by Montilio's. I know the kids will go for that. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next year, hopefully. Huzzah!